Hey everyone, Tony Walsh here. Welcome back to the channel. Most of you know that I have recently had a heart attack on September 12th, and since then I've looked at life a little bit different. But I also want to thank all of y'all for your thoughts, your prayers, your well wishes, and everything else during my time of recuperation. I'm posting this on Monday. I don't even remember the day. The 6th, I believe. And I actually go to the cardiologist this afternoon, so hopefully he will turn me loose to go back to work tomorrow on Tuesday. That's my hopes. But what does all that have to do with today's video? Well, one of my most dearest YouTube friends that has turned out to be a real life friend is obviously Dee and Doug, and their channel's Dee and Doug Retired. She is such a hoot and a blessing, and if you don't know Dee and Doug, you know, I'm gonna leave a link to their channel. I may put a card up here, but I'll definitely leave a link in the description of this video. Make sure you go check them out, because like I say, she's a hoot. So anyways, a couple of weeks ago, and because I've been thinking about life differently, just out of the blue, Dee posted a video of a book that she had purchased on Amazon, and I'm gonna leave a link to that in the description as well. So I immediately ordered one, and why is that? Well, in my household, Jackie knows everything. I know very little. You know, I'm the breadwinner. You know, I mean, she works, and she works hard. She works a full-time job and then takes care of the house too. So physically, she probably works harder than I do. But just because of the field I'm in, you know, I make a little bit more money, and that's not to degrade her by any chance. It just says I just spend a lot of time at work and a lot of thought at work, and not as much at the house. And again, what's got to do with this video and this book I just mentioned about? Well, here's the book. Sorry It's Your Problem Now Because I'm Dead. And it's an end-of-life planner. And Dee showed this on her video. And again, I'm going to put a link to that in the description. But I want to spend a moment going through this because it's important. I can tell you, your life can be over at the flip of a switch. Thankfully, I've got a second lease on life. You know, God left me here to do something else, and you know, I'm still working on that. So, but in the meantime, I've got to get my act together. So I want to go through this book. I'm not going to go page by page, but just hit the high points. You know, it's got all your personal records, information, and stuff like that. You know, my YouTube channel, for instance. Jackie, John, and Andrew have no clue how to access it. If something was to happen to me, they couldn't access it to make y'all a video. My Facebook page, my Instagram, you know, all that, you know, they know nothing about that on how to get to it. Now Jackie knows all my legal information. She knows all my personal stuff, you know, which goes on these pages here. You know, and I can, for most of that, I know hers, because one, we live right here by her family, so it's no big deal. I know who our attorney is. She knows who our attorney is, and thankfully John and Andrew both know who our attorney is. Luckily, we live in a small town. But if there was something that we had multiple attorneys, which one is which? Now, we don't have that, but you might. So, you know, your loved ones you're leaving behind might need to know that information. You may have something you're hiding from them, intentionally or non-intentionally, you know, so they need to know. Important contacts. You know, who do you want them to call? Who needs to know something? Again, I'm fortunate enough that Jackie knows my boss, knows my HR director, but she doesn't have their numbers. She'd have to call the hospital to get them to call her back. So again, having this stuff written down is important. You know, relatives, you know, their information. Is getting to where now I know Jackie's phone number, but I do not know John's, and I don't know Andrew's. I know them on speed dial, but if I had to use your phone to call either one of them, have no clue. You know, so this stuff needs to be written down somewheres. I couldn't tell you Jackie's mama's phone number, couldn't tell you, you know, her sister and brother-in-laws and nieces, couldn't tell you none of those phone numbers. So, you know, we need to write some of that stuff down of people that we want to be notified of anything or to be told of anything if something catastrophic happens. So important contacts, device login information. You know, we already talked about that one time, and I was watching Moses, who is the urban backyard container gardener, and I'll leave a link to his channel. Moses just posted, well, I just watched it this morning. Don't know if he posted it this morning or yesterday or when he posted it. But his YouTube account got hacked. Now, Moses has 130 something subscribers, if my memory serves me correctly, and his account got hacked. He fought tooth and nail and appealed to get control of it back. So his plea was, one, to warn us that that could happen, to make sure you're changing your passwords regularly. You know, so that is something we need to do. And passwords are hard to remember. At work, we are constantly changing ours, so we have to keep them written down somewhere to where we can always go back to it. So device login information is extremely important for everything, because when you're gone, somebody's got to access that data. All your online accounts, all your other account information, you know, all that needs to be written down somewheres. Important documents, where are those located at? You know, are they in a safe deposit box in the bank, or are they in a wall safe somewhere in the house, or are they buried in a can in the backyard? Somebody's going to need to know that when the time comes. And we all have important documents. Now, one thing I got a kick out of this book, and I didn't look to see where this book even comes from, you know, if it's a foreign country or what. Does it say? It doesn't say. Doesn't say. But here, insurance is spelled correctly, but the rest of the document, insurance is spelled wrong. So I don't know if it's a foreign country or if somebody in their proofreading just didn't proofread. But anyways, life insurance. I have 3 or 4 different policies because one, you know, is still retired firefighter, so there's one there. There's obviously one at work. There's one, well, I don't have a truck payment anymore, and I can't remember. There should be one on the land payments we make. So all the different life insurance policies that you have, you know, honestly, I could not tell you how many Jackie has. I'm assuming one, but you know that. You know what happens when you make an assumption. It just makes an ass out of you and me. So this book does away with that assumption. So life insurance, car insurance, health insurance, other insurance, the house insurance, you know. I got an idea where it's at, but now if the house burned up and I died in it or whatever, you know, where's all that paperwork at? Where are the boys going to find that paperwork? If I don't know, they sure are not going to know. The information on your will. Now, Jackie and I have a joint will, and it needs to be redone. I can tell you that. But where is that located at? You know, the boys need to know. And not just a death will, but a living will, a family trust, a power of attorney, advanced directives, healthcare power of attorney, other documents related to the will. Where is all that stuff at? Financial information, the bank accounts and credit cards. We use two different banks now. No, we use 3. We use 3 different banks. So where's all that information at? What's those account numbers? Credit cards, debit cards. Where's all that stuff at? Investments. You know, who knows about that stuff? Let's see. A lot of this is multiple pages. Outstanding loans. You know, who has to be notified for those to get paid off? Do we or do we not have a safe deposit box? What are the current bills that you have? Because obviously if I'm not here, you know, Jackie's lost my salary. If she's not here, I've lost her salary. You know, so we got to do some wheeling and dealing on bills. Excuse me for drinking like that. It's a Diet Pepsi. So what are your current bills? What are their due dates? How much are they? Your utility information. Now, we live out in the country, so the only utility we have is electricity and internet. You know, we don't have no water, no sewer. We do have a garbage bill. So, you know, all that stuff. Other financial information that's not covered in the previous pages. Properties. You look at our property and you think it's one big tract. It's actually 1, 2, 3 right now, with the potential of being a fourth one. And they're all different legal descriptions, so all different tax bills. Some we might join together at a later date. Some we won't, just because of the financing of it. But all that needs to be listed. Let's see. Properties. Vehicle information. Mine's paid for. Jackie's is still being paid for. Other property owned. All we own is right here. We don't own anywhere else. End of life wishes. You know, we talked about the will, but if you're laid up in the hospital bed, how do you want the end of life to take place? So you know, you have all that choice right here in the end of life care plan. What your wishes are. Additional wishes and notes. You know, anything else that you would want anybody to know in case you'd met your demise. Here's a category for my wishes for my spouse or significant other. You know, what is your wish for them? I just want my wife to live a happy life after I'm gone. I joke with her about her and her next husband, but I can tell you she won't get married again. I have broke that desire for her to ever be married again. That's what she says anyways. I just like to think that after me, what else is there? Other wishes and requests. My letters. Who do you want to write a letter to? You know, that's still here. Things that you haven't told them while you're still alive or while they're still alive. You know, and some people don't want to open themselves up to that. But after death, you know, it would give them something meaningful to cherish about your relationship, your physical relationship that's no longer going to be here. You know, for our case, we have 2 granddaughters. What do I want to tell them? So that they can always pull it out of a jewelry box or keepsake box and say, Papa T wrote me this before he died. Several pages for different letters. My apologies. Who in your family do you want to apologize to? You know, apology is a hard thing for a lot of people that they will never say face to face, unfortunately. So somebody's going to go to their deathbed wishing they had apologized in person to someone but didn't, or whatever those circumstances may be. Well, this would be your chance to write them that apology letter. Recommendations for your funeral. How do you want your funeral? Biggest thing for me is I want Amazing Grace played, and I want it played on bagpipes if at all possible. One, just for being a retired firefighter. I just love bagpipes. Amazing Grace is, you know, that song is so true to my life. If God hadn't put Jackie in my path, there is no telling where I would be on this earth today. I may not even be here if it weren't for her, because I was stupid in my younger years. So I just thank God for her, that His grace put her in my path. So here you can talk about the recommendations of your funeral, what you want, what you don't want. Let's see, several pages for that. And that, I believe, is No, my last words. What do you want to leave to everybody in general? You know, so it's a good book full of chock information, or it's a good book chock full of information. But I can tell you, you know, I'm 62, and I hope to live another 20 years. Well, in that time, you know, this book would be changed several times. So I'm actually not going to write much in this book. I think what I'm going to do is put it all on a Word document. That way I can change it from time to time, especially your passwords, your bills, your stuff like that. You know, you're constantly going to be changing those. So I think I'm just going to type it up in a document on my computer, but I'm not going to store it on my computer, because just like Moses, like his YouTube account was hacked, you know, our computers are constantly being attacked. As a matter of fact, my Facebook page, somebody from Bangladesh tried to log into it yesterday. Of course, Facebook sent me a notification, and I didn't go into that notification to change my password because I read it on my phone. I went back to my computer and again didn't go into that message. I just went into my settings on my Facebook page and changed my password. You know, as Moses' advice was, don't click the links in these messages, because that is what'll get you in trouble. You know, don't take the shortcut, take the long way to change your passwords to make sure you get it done right. And because you should do that often, you know, at least a couple of times a year. I have to change mine every 90 days at work. So at least a couple of times a year on your personal stuff. You know, I'd have so much stuff scribbled and scribbled in here and scratched out, you know, that you might not be able to read it over the next 20 years. So I'm just going to make me a separate document, but again, I'm not going to store it on my computer. I think I'm going to just back it up on a flash drive, and then anytime I want to modify it, I'll plug the flash drive in, make my edits, and then resave it back to the flash drive. Wouldn't hurt to have it on 2 separate flash drives, because you never know when one's not going to open up. Now, I actually have an external hard drive, so I could keep one on the external hard drive and then keep one on the flash drive. So just keep, you know, this stuff backed up. And that's really one. Oh, back to D. I had mentioned that that I'll put a link to the video, you know, either up here in a card, definitely in the description. But she is also has an Amazon storefront, so I'm going to put a link to this book in the description. So if you're interested in buying one, it was not very expensive. I meant to look what it was, but it was not expensive at all. I'm going to put the Amazon link so she can make a few pennies. You know, we're all trying to make every little bit of scratch that we can. So if this interests you, go check out Dee's channel, subscribe to her. You know, and if this really interests you, then look at that link and go buy one where she can make a few pennies. Of course, and I mentioned Moses a couple of times. Again, he's a great guy. I've met Dee a couple of times, talked to her hundreds of times on the phone. Never met Moses, but I've got to go meet him, because he and I only live 2.5 hours apart. So there's no reason that both of us hadn't gotten our vehicles and at least met halfway to go buy lunch. But go check Moses out too, because you know what? We're all in this world together. It doesn't matter what color we are, what nationality we are. We're all created in the image of God, and we're all His children. We need to stick together. We need to help each other. We need to love each other. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope y'all have a blessed day and a blessed week ahead. Y'all take care.